This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, Fact Check This podcast daily. And as I said previously, we're going through the Trump cabinet appointees. And today we're going to be looking at RFK Jr. I don't even know where to start, and this one might go a little bit longer than I have with the other ones. I'm going to try not to, though. I'm going to try to bang through all this stuff as quickly as I can. I really love the number one talking point that I've seen is how RFK is to hold the position of head of Health and Human Services because he's not a doctor. He doesn't have a medical degree, yada, 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 so on and so forth. All of this stuff. That's fine and all fine and good, except that I don't think having a medical degree is actually a requirement to be the head of Health and Human Services, especially when you consider the current head of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra, has literally no medical background at all whatsoever, not even a little bit. As a matter of fact, Javier Becerra got his Juris Doctorate, which is not actually a medical degree. That's he got his JD and became a lawyer in graduated from Stanford Law School in Stanford. That's what I thought. He graduated from Stanford Law School in 1984, was admitted to the California bar in 1985. Sometime after being admitted to the California bar until mid 1986, he worked in Massachusetts as for a legal firm or for a law firm, and then moved back to California and went into politics. So not even a full year after getting out of law school, he went into politics and has literally done nothing but be a career politician ever since then. So exactly what is Javier Becerra's medical background and pedigree that would qualify him to be the head of Health and Human Services, as they say RFK doesn't have the qualifications. In fact, at the very least, RFK has written a couple books and done some pretty extensive research and stuff looking at health, looking at vaccines, looking at all sorts of different stuff. One of the big things that they have been running with consistently is that that RFK is anti-vax, which is not at all true. He let's let him explain it. Actually, I've got a good clip of RFK explaining it himself.
Many years to find a pre-licensing safety trial of any of the 72 vaccines doses that are now essentially mandated. They're recommended, but that's effectively mandated for American children, and we have not been able to find any. And every other medication requires, prior to licensing by FDA, that the company perform a safety trial that compares health outcomes in a placebo group and a similarly situated vaccine group. My assumption was that was done for vaccines. We found out that it hadn't been, that it was not. They were exempt. And I made that statement publicly. Dr. Fauci contradicted me, and when President Trump ordered him to meet with me, him and Francis Collins and a group of my colleagues, I said to them at that time, "You've said publicly that I've been dishonest about that. Can you show us a single pre-licensing safety trial, placebo-controlled safety trial for any of the 72 vaccines required for American children?" And he made that show of looking through a file, and he said, "Well, they're back in Bethesda." And I said, will you send them to me? And I never heard from him again. So we sued the HHS under the Freedom of Information Law. After a year of litigation, they sent us a letter which is posted on CHD's website that acknowledges that they are now not able to locate a single pre-licensing safety trial, placebo control for any of the vaccines that are now mandated for children. These are zero liability vaccines. I'm not anti-vaccine, but I think we need to be honest and we need to have good science. I spent 30 years trying to get mercury out of the fish in this country, and nobody ever called me anti-fish.
From his very word, or from his very mouth, like, RFK is not anti-vaccine. I'm pretty sure he and all of his family are fully vaccinated. What he has suggested and has been suggesting for a long time is there needs to be transparency about what is in the vaccines, what is going on with them. And that's one of those things that, as he talked about in that clip, there is no transparency with those things. And in fact, it's there was a case of a doctor, I believe it was in either Colorado or Oregon, one of those very progressive, liberal Western states. Colorado, Oregon, or Washington. I wish I had the link to it. But the only thing that the doctor was doing was, when parents would come to him about the vaccine schedule for their infants and for their children, he would give them packets of all of the information that had what the ingredients are in these vaccines, like what potential side effects have been discovered, stuff like that. And he just gave them the information and allowed them to make the decision as to whether or not they wanted to vaccinate their children. He was not pushing one way or the other. If the parents wanted it, he did it. But he was giving them information and options. And they stripped him of his medical license because he was being honest with his patients. It's insane. And this is the kind of stuff that RFK Jr. is talking about that makes him some like crazy anti-vax conspiracy theorist. It's insane. And then you get stuff like this article that comes out. The CDC warns of measles surge and a decline in vaccinations as Trump nominates vaccine skeptic RFK Jr. to head health. And we're not going to read the article. I'm trying to be quicker about this, but like, this is a blatantly untrue anyway. The decline in vaccines has been happening for the better part of 8 years. The measles surge, the measles outbreaks has been going on for at least 6 or 7 years. This stuff started back in like 16 or 17 was when the measles outbreaks were starting. And a lot of it was like surrounding these incredibly liberal, progressive females who were definitionally anti-vax and refused to even get their kids like any vaccines at all. And like, this is not something new or unique to RFK Jr. In fact, the left pioneered being anti-vax. Now all of a sudden, like, since COVID, there's suddenly really pro big pharma, which is one of the most insane like flips I think I've ever seen. Like, I never expected the left to be pro war and pro big pharma, but holy shit, here we are, right? And then to make it even better, I don't know. Like, they also misrepresent the stuff that RFK says about like our food. Like, he wants to get fluoride out of the water. So then you have all these dentists come out that say that American teeth dental health is going to go in the shitter because he wants to take fluoride out of water. You mean we can't have like fluoride in our toothpaste or fluoride mouthwash? We have to have it in the water where that we're drinking it. I'm pretty sure fluoride is one of those things that, like, when you go to the dentist office and they they do the cleanings and stuff and they use the fluoride, you spit that shit out, right? You don't swallow it, but we need it in our drinking water, or our teeth are gonna what? Like, make it make sense, right? And then you've got shit like this where He talks about the chemicals and the ingredients, the unnatural stuff that is in our food, and working to make our food healthier and get that stuff out of our food. And then you get a fact check like this from the New York Times. Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the US version. But he was wrong. The ingredient list is roughly the same. And then here's where whoever, a friend said, like, the editor of this fucked up. Like, whoever edited this was an idiot. The ingredient list is roughly the same, although Canada's has natural coloring made from blueberries and carrots, while the U.S. product contains red dye 40, yellow dye 5, and blue 1, as well as butylated hydro something or other, or BHT, a lab-made chemical that is used for freshness, according to the ingredient label. Like, RFK is wrong that Canadian Fruit Loops don't have a bunch of other ingredients and chemicals and stuff in them. And then they go on to list all the extra ingredients and fucking chemicals, whereas the Canadian version uses natural coloring from blueberries and carrots. I mean, come the fuck on. This is the stuff that they're losing their mind over. And then just to make it all the sweeter, you also have reports, and whether there's validity to this or not, and it's the same thing with every department since the nominees have been, or the appointees have been named. CDC employees are reportedly preparing to submit their resignation letters in large numbers following the announcement that RFK Jr. will head the Department of Health and Human Services. And you also have similar reports for the FDA. FDA employees are also considering how to handle RFK Jr., including considering leaving. It's insane, and it's amazing. And the way that they are trying to twist and spin all of these candidates, when all it takes, I mean, I didn't do an exceptional amount of research on any of this stuff. Like, you can find all of this stuff about all of these candidates. Maybe Matt Gaetz took a little bit more digging because it was, but because the stuff that they're talking about with Gaetz is 3 years old, 3+ years old. Like, but this stuff with RFK, like, he's very public about his opinions and his thoughts on this stuff. And they're going to keep running with these crazy narratives. And the more they run with it, the more I'm going to talk about it. Gosh, I'm trying to decide who I'm going to do tomorrow. Possibly Tulsi. Linda McMahon has been named as the head of the Department of Education. So that one could be a lot of fun. We'll see. I'll see kind of how the news trends today, and we'll come up with another one for tomorrow. But in the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in, everybody that does. Hopefully you're getting something out of this and learning a little bit about the nominees. And as I did with Biden, whenever he established his cabinet and everything, I went through his cabinet and I talked about the bad ones and the things that I like legitimately had problems with. And I also talked about the ones that I didn't really have problems with, like that I thought might be relatively decent for their positions. And usually it's small positions that don't get a lot of publicity that they'll put decent candidates in with that sort of stuff, or ones that I see as potentially useful. And as the cabinet starts to shake out, I will go through all of them and talk about the ones that I don't like and the ones that I think are bad and the ones that I do like and I think are good. Marco Rubio stands out as one that I don't particularly like, and I will talk about that whenever confirmations start to come around with that. But in the meantime, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Later.